If you take some time to understand the inner critic, it tends to manifest mostly with this harsh inner voice. It tends to be self-critical, a self-critical perspective. And if that's what's consistent in life, it can lead to other stress-related problems. And it can be an issue with mental well-being. It can start causing more problems. That's one of the ways that we start to make physical and manifest physical problems for what's going on with us emotionally.
Hey everybody, Jeff here. Before we get started, if you're getting value from the podcast, please take a moment to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. For those of you listening on podcast apps, don't forget to rate and review. Your support really helps the show reach more people, and for that, I am truly grateful. Now let's dive in.
Welcome to The Point with Jeff Spikes, the show about achieving goals, embracing growth, and finding your true path. And now, here's your host, Jeff Spikes.
Hello, and welcome to The Point. This is your host, Jeff Spikes, and here we are again today to further the conversation. We're coming up on 2 years of consistent podcasts going out weekly with minor exception. I think there was a week off in the holidays, and what a gift it has been to experience, express, and demonstrate consistency. Think of a time in history when you approached something that required consistency that you followed through with. Pick that thing and think about what did it take? Think about the obstacles that you hit, how you moved forward through them, and think about the commitment that you had to feel, the commitment you had to continually make on an ongoing basis to stay the course with that consistent action. If there was a time in that consistent action that you had to, for whatever reason, not perform, not go through, couldn't make it happen, then what type of resolve did it take? What did it feel like to pick it up after and continue moving, even with a hiccup in the routine? That's what you get to experience every time that you take on a challenge to do something consistently in your life. Now, the interesting thing about that is that you can be very consistent about your behaviors towards certain goals and certain tasks, whether it's physical or mental health, if it's nutrition. It's a basic self-care and self-behavior type of ideas. Maybe you're starting a new prayer routine or a consistent routine with checking in with family or friends. Those are all base life types of consistent behaviors that you can repeat over and over and commit to. Well, what happens when you're building on one thing on top of the other, and that foundation, and when that consistency becomes a foundation, when all of those smaller pieces that you're imagining, as you were listening, you started stacking all of the things that you naturally have a consistent behavior on. You consistently talk to certain people. You consistently have coffee at the same time of day. Go outside and take a break or take a walk. There's things that you naturally do. So those are behaviors that you're doing consistently that you might have not even thought of until you were listening here. So as you start looking at those and start stacking those up and realizing that you're creating these wins that is then a foundation for you to move forward and use that as a behavior to do anything else. And one of the things in designing strengths or in quantum strengths that you'll find moving through towards change that is suggested to use is demonstrations. And on the individual level for you, it will be demonstrations of self-love, demonstrations of self-care, demonstrations of kindness. That might start to move laterally over into demonstrations of values in relationships or in the way you keep your surroundings, right? So that can also then turn into what your environment's like and the consistency of your environment. So all of that is putting together this foundation that you can then stand on and do great things with. this is building all up to the idea also of how to then use this as you begin to consider working within a group. One of the big keys or stepping stones to get there is these demonstrations. So, and then it's choosing the demonstrations that have the most impact on the most goals that you'd like to impact. Along with the demonstrations that you'll choose to make, there's base repeatables, and there's also this power of curiosity, of staying curious, staying teachable, staying out of a place of knowing anything and everything other than that deep knowing of what these next best actions are. So the knowing that's viscerally in your body, not just in your brain and in the ego of I know. It's a much different expression. Think about looking in the mirror and trying to say, I know, from the fed up, sarcastic, oh my gosh, I'm tired of hearing that from you type of behavior. Like think about that with the I know, from the I know that you don't even have to say, that is just confident and in flow and in motion, doing and being, right? There's very different, same words, very different. Picture yourself looking in the mirror and saying that. As a matter of fact, unless you're driving, if you're driving, pull over before you do this or just don't do this. But otherwise, find a mirror and look in the mirror and just think about those two energies and that confident knowing, and think and watch yourself and how you stand and how you feel and experience that for a minute, and go into this energy of I know, and what happens to your body and what happens to your spirit when I know. Maybe that's the I know that you're getting after hearing a lesson, but repeating, learning a lesson over and over, because you get to feel the pain of not knowing, or of behaving in a way that would suggest that you don't know. The whole point of this, that was a bit of a rabbit trail, which I'm known to do, is to get into that spirit of knowing and behaving and performing, because these things together, this idea of staying teachable, making the right demonstrations that really are demonstrating the right things to you for your foundation that also help reach the highest goal, because that's what a base repeatable is, right? So the base repeatable is a step well outside of and beyond the world of affirmations, which are fine, but it's a little bit different, because a base repeatable could also be more of a slogan. And there's etymology to all these. Slogan traces back to this Celtic term slaugh, SLAUGH, meaning war cry. Okay, this is from Keller Center for Research. Says, when effectively crafted, slogans can enhance brand recognition, shape public perception, and align team members with the organization's identity. So consider that as a base repeatable. Maybe it's not worthy of a slogan. It's not catchy enough or anything else. But if you can add a base repeatable, it speaks to, the war cry speaks to that foundation of winning, of feeling connected and knowing, this just intense sense of camaraderie, right? And so it speaks to that core foundation, and it is big and overreaching and has quite a reach. So, and when you've heard this spoken about before, especially on this show, you've heard reference to things like bend at the knees if you're in theater or music or sports, where keeping your knees bent is really important. It helps you do a larger thing. That can be a base repeatable. So they're in our lives already, but then you learning to use them in a way that's really specific is something else. So taking this idea and then making demonstrations, and the demonstration, I did some research on that as well for a little bit different purpose. But the idea of a base repeatable, the idea of a demonstration is monstrar, is the Latin verb, means to show or to point out. And it's derived from the noun monstrum, which refers to an omen or a prodigy. To show or point out, to bring awareness to something that's either an omen or a prodigy. So it's either something that is so amazing or so special that you want to take notice, or it's a danger, it's a monster, it's something that, an omen. The most fun that can be had with that is to think about our inner demons and our inner self-talk and the monster inside of us that would like to combat us and work against us, and what a demonstration then does for our subconscious, our conscious and subconscious self, as far as creating new neural pathways. And that brought up some other research. I'd been reading some things in Psychology Today recently in February. There have been a couple of great articles in there, and that are about self-love and about self-care, really some of the roots to that. And it's just completely expanded a lot of these things that we're talking about. So showing or revealing the concept of a monster that serves as a warning sign is when we make a demonstration, we're telling our unconscious that, okay, I'm not feeling it today. I'm down on myself. I'm not really happy with a couple of results, or things aren't happening fast enough, or whatever problem I'm having in my mind that I'm struggling through that has me going on a walk or going to the gym or doing something else. And I don't want to go because I'm not feeling it. Well, I can turn around. If I turn around, I say, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to love myself anyway. It's not aligned and we don't get the same gain consciously. It's just an inner argument. But when we tell ourselves we remain in the adult framework of ourselves. So if you remain in the framework of the adult in your life, understanding that there's many parts to you, there's many parts of you that have conversations going on internally at different times. Very important to make sure that you know that those are all your inner workings and the way you tend to think. And there are some people that don't identify as with any of those parts because they're very singularly focused, and that speaks to a strength that you have if you're that type of person. And then those discrepancies or arguments are usually just outside of you, and they're there on a piece of paper that you're working through. Either way, there's these parts, these components of life that you're looking at, and these components of a conversation that compete with each other that you're trying to sort out. So when you are in a mood where you don't feel like you love yourself very much, or you dislike yourself in the moment, you're beating yourself up for having done something, you can then make the demonstration of love to yourself by going ahead and taking care of yourself. You can be obedient to a consistent behavior. You can be compliant with a routine, a structure of routine that you've given yourself. You can be obedient in a scriptural or spiritual way to behaving in a way that you're caring for yourself the way that you're instructed to in your religion. And there's many ways to stack that as a thought of what a demonstration is and why you would do it instead of faking it till you make it. So now you take this idea of having these base repeatables and making these demonstrations in life, while having the base repeatables to use along the way, you have a really good combination of things that help you wire yourself, open the neural pathways, and move yourself towards a desired outcome. Here we are at the point, getting to the point. Let's go back to this inner monster, this inner critic. If you take some time to understand the inner critic, it tends to manifest mostly with this harsh inner voice. It tends to be self-critical, a self-critical perspective. And if that's what's consistent in life, it can lead to other stress-related problems. And it can be an issue with mental well-being. It can start causing more problems. That's one of the ways that we start to make physical and manifest physical problems for what's going on with us emotionally. Recognizing and addressing this inner critic is really important. So it's why it's one of the key elements inside of our programs with designing strengths and quantum strengths. So the brain's ability to reorganize itself is pretty strong. The brain's ability to form new neural connections. There's a lot of people talking about using psychedelics. For years, we've been using other extreme physical measures to put ourselves into a state of shock to build new neural pathways. Oftentimes, people going through extreme physical activities bring themselves into a state that naturally helps helps rewire and build new neural pathways that really help us understand. It laterally moves us into this state, and you can move yourself over into a state of understanding the true possibilities of what you're capable of by going through physical things or emotional things that then cause change. Many people will say it's going to take a crisis to change because that belief says that it must be painful enough to want to change, the old construct of wanting to change. What the consideration is for you to think about today is to think about the possibility around skipping some of that pain by just learning to demonstrate something different and build the new neural pathways before you're falling into a darkness to get there. We're going to talk about some really exciting and valuable techniques and strategies that you can use in different environments to talk about these things in a way that brings people together into a common path, regardless of how diverse, different, or separate a group may be. If you're focused on similarities, if there is a common bond, working for a company can be a common bond. Going to an industry event can be a common bond. Any excuse we have to find a commonality to then all be moving forward offers the opportunity for growth and for creating new situations. If you're wanting to test how you're working with others and how you're listening and how well you maybe speak, how well you communicate, test what people hear when you speak, really test what you're hearing when people speak and check with them. One of the best places to do that is in group environments. At industry events is a great example of that. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper into that and also dig into how you can do this with your team. But the root of this so far is about the idea of making the demonstration. And the demonstration is quelling that monster within. We say playfully. My friend Daryl Fusaro, as a matter of fact, his painting, his art is on the back here. That's a dog shaking it off, and it's an anchor in Tip of the Sword in our company. It's on every wall. So looking forward to future episodes and future weeks. In the time being, demonstrate love for yourself, demonstrate love and kindness for others, and we'll see you on the other side.
Jeff Spikes, the show about achieving goals, embracing